Now we're going to talk briefly about serious games, because they're really pivotal to the Essence user experience, and they're really key to what makes Essence an active way to learn and use practices rather than a passive one. So before we talk about serious games, let me just talk about what I mean by active and passive. So a passive approach, typically we see very commonly, I'd go and do a training course, I sit down, I watch lots of slides, I might do some exercises, I might do an exam, and then I go and I use my practice. Now, that teaching and learning is often very passive. It's about listening to information and hoping that it gets absorbed. And it's all in the past, right? So once I've been taught that, I don't very often revisit that material. It's very seldom that the course textbook or the slideshow that presented the material is useful for me when I'm actually applying a practice for real. It's difficult to find information. It doesn't necessarily get presented in a sensible order for applying it, even if it is a sensible order for learning it. Now, an active approach, on the other hand, turns that on its head. So it's where I'm much more active in the learning. So maybe I'm doing a lot more talking, maybe I'm doing a lot more kinesthetic work. So I'm moving things around, touching things, moving cards, writing things, drawing, and anything like that, any collaborative exercise is going to really improve the retention of knowledge. And there's quite a lot of theory around this. And there's a movement called training from the back of the room, which talks about how you teach in a very much more active way compared to traditional classroom-based learning. So Essence really enables that. And it enables it in a number of ways, partly because the way we break out a practice into elements makes them really easy to build them back together as part of learning. So let's talk about the games part then. So game's an interesting word. In some cultures, it's actually quite a negative connotation because it might be very much associated with play or with gambling and not with a professional environment. But a serious game is a game, any game, that is played for serious intent. And actually, we see serious games in many, many different places. There's an advert on for the Meta virtual reality headset where the example is teaching somebody how to maintain an oil well. Now, clearly, that's a lot easier to do on dry land with a headset on than it is to be training in the bottom of the sea. And that's an example of a serious game. The medical sector has got lots of examples of medical serious games, either from being able to triage catastrophic accidents by walking around interacting with patients and deciding who to treat first, through to the fine motor skills required for keyhole surgery. It's much more effective to learn that through a game than it is from just practicing in another way, or in a simulator which might cost many thousands of pounds. A computer game with handsets might cost very much less. So serious games are everywhere. You will have played serious games. If ever you've been in a workshop and you've done dot voting or you've done a SWOT exercise, those are serious games. And Essence has all those games, but it's also got a lot of extra games that we've built specifically to help with one or many areas of using and learning and applying practices. So on that double circle, the kind of infinity thing top left, we've got the learning cycle and the delivery cycle of a way of working. So we discover it, we explore it, we adopt it, we adapt it, we plan. And each one of those stations, you can execute the purpose of that station through serious games. And there's a whole host of them. Look through the videos on TeamSpace for some examples, but they're very often around interacting with the practice elements, moving them around, ranking them, scoring them, drawing pictures, using them to create memory pathways, so remembering what something is for. There's lots of games around learning. So if you give some that simple example, give somebody all the activities in Scrum or in use cases or in any other practice and say, put those in order that they happen. Or brainstorm one thing that helps you, one approach that would help you do this well, and one approach that would be damaging. All those sorts of games are really simple to help people think about the practice and learn and understand it. And then when you're actually applying it, there are lots of games for that as well. Games that help you execute activities successfully, games that give you approaches and templates to follow. And all these things are going to dial up a few really important things. The first one is going to be engagement. So if I'm playing a game, I'm focused on the game. I'm not fiddling on my phone. I'm not doing emails in the corner. I'm playing the game, especially if it's in person. Almost all the games, or the successful games, are about collaboration. It's not just me moving pieces on a board, it's a team doing it together. Facilitating those games, you want to be moving the focus of play around the room. It shouldn't be the team leader making all the choices. Take it in turns to pick the next card to play or the next thing to do. They also dial up creativity and innovation. And partly that's through the way that people work, but it's also through the fact that very often we've got iterations in the games. We've got different rounds. And each time you go around an iteration, you've got more opportunity to innovate your previous answers and dial up the creativity. So what we get by playing serious games is stronger engagement and focus, we get better collaboration, and ultimately we get better results. So we get more creativity in our answers and more innovation in our answers. And what that gives us is more successful activities, and we get a more productive team. So a few words there on serious games. There's loads out there to try. They're dead easy to make up yourself. And even if you don't think it's a very good game, it'll be a better game than not having one at all.